Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, Rightmove house price index data came out. Always have a good finger on the pulse of the first start of the process of what's going on in the housing market. How are people searching and looking for properties, and pretty much following the trend of what we're seeing this year so far. So buyer activity up, 16% increase in the number of buyers contacting estate agents against August last year, 11% increase against July. Asking prices slightly down. That is completely normal for August. So August for the last 18 years in a row has seen a price reduction. When you compare August to July, it was down about 1.5%. That's probably because most people are a bit consumed with school holidays, childcare, a different pace of life, and so they actively put on hold their house moving decision and decide to wait to list in the autumn. So those sellers that you have going to market in the autumn market tend to be a little bit more motivated, maybe a bit more need to sell or seeing something they like, so they are much more realistic on their pricing. So that's completely normal to see that 1.5% drop in asking prices from August to July. Stock levels up about 15% up on what agents are holding, going sale agreed a lot quicker. So all the dials and indicators kind of where you thought they would be. 5-year fixed rates looking really attractive now. If you've got a 40% deposit or more, you can get a 3.8% 5-year fixed rate. So against the highs of this time last year, that is obviously looking a lot more attractive for many people. So that's encouraging the market. Let's wait and see what August brings. Well, one thing I've not really talked about, it kind of crept through while I was away on annual leave. But at the moment, furnished holiday lets, FHLs they're called, they have all sorts of favourable tax treatment on them, which means this is why you've had a big rise of Airbnbs and those sort of things against long-term rentals. There are lots of tax treatments that are much more favourable, and also it's often felt the returns you can get are better, and you can have more flexibility, of course. You can say, well, I don't want to let my property out over that period because I will be using it, but you can let it for all the other periods. A lot more work, there's absolutely no doubt about that, in terms of preparing a property, the cleaning, and getting it ready for the new guests that tend to come with a lot more frequency than a long-term rental, but definitely good returns and good tax treatment. Well, on the 29th of July, the government published a draft legislation to say how from April next year, so April 2025, they're looking at addressing much of the favourable tax treatment of holiday lets. So what will that look at? Well, at the moment, you can offset your income that you get from a furnished holiday let against the costs of this. So you can offset the costs, I should go around, it gets confusing. You can offset the costs in terms of any mortgage or debt that you've got for that property against the income, which obviously can massively reduce your income tax liability, especially if you're a 40 or 45% taxpayer. Well, from April next year, you'll just get a 20% relief. So that'll be relatively neutral for base rate taxpayers. But if you are sitting in those higher rates, then you're going to see far less of your costs that can be offset and a higher resulting tax treatment on there. So that's not really great. Another thing you can do at the moment is you can dispose of that asset, and subject to certain criteria and your accountant's approval, you can have it as a business qualifying disposal, which means you basically, up to a limit of £1 million as a lifetime allowance of 1 million, get taxed at 10%. Prevailing rates of capital gains tax at the moment are obviously much higher. So especially because the government's saying they're going to look at that next year. So yeah, you could either be taxed at 18% or 24% on your gain instead. And of course, Labour have said they might look at capital gains tax rates in the autumn budget. So that's also another change that could happen. Capital gains rollover relief. So what that does, it doesn't get rid of the capital gains tax treatment, but it just defers it. So at the moment, if you sell a holiday let and you make a big gain, you can take that gain and offset it against the purchase cost of a new holiday let that you would do. And therefore, when that holiday let sells, that's when that tax treatment would become payable. There's always dangers of doing that anyway, because you don't know what the CGT rate is going to be in years to come. Capital gains tax does get addressed by governments, it could go up, and therefore you've deferred a gain, and then when you do have to pay the gain, it's at a much higher rate. But at the moment, it kind of kicks the can down the road quite nicely, especially if you're thinking of passing that asset to your children, which gets rid of the capital gains tax relief on inheritance. So yeah, complicated, but another thing you can do. You can also offset the expenditure of a holiday let as a capital allowance. So if you had to buy new stuff or have repairs expenditure, that's an allowable deductible allowance as well. They're going to look at that as well. And finally, I won't go into it because it's really complicated, but you can do things on your pension to do with your income and your gains of a holiday let, which you can't do with a normal residential property. Commercial's pretty good for pensions, and at the moment furnished holiday lets are too. So that's going to be looked at as well. So a whole raft of changes. And what does this mean then? Well, it will mean that either investors who hold those properties will look to dispose of them before April 2025, just in case. This isn't looking at very attractive for me anymore to hold as an investment, so I might as well get rid of it. They could, of course, transfer it to a long-term let, but really your tax treatment then is going to be neutral across the two different assets, because long-term lets don't have any of those joys at the moment. You're not allowed to offset your costs. You're not allowed to offset a lot of your capital allowance. Some you can, but it has to go against your income on the property, not your eventual capital gain. That's not great. Capital gain is charged at capital gains tax, so you can't hold it in your pension. So you certainly can't do rollover. So yeah, so pretty much the same, but put it on a level playing ground. So I don't think there'll be many that will switch to that unless they still like to hold that property asset. So let's see how that all affects the property world. As I say, it snuck through on the 29th of July. I was on holiday, but I just wanted to cover that. I hope that wasn't too dull for you. If you've ever wondered what are the favourable tax treatments of holding a holiday let, now you know. A little bit, hopefully, but could all change in April. A lovely property I'm going to launch today as I sit here on Tuesday, whatever it is of August. I lose track of time in the school holidays. Beautiful property, a Jerningham house, which is up Mount Sion. This is a stunning property, believed to be one of the oldest in Tunbridge Wells. Unverified, but that's what they say. It certainly feels lovely and period when you're inside. 3 bedrooms, beautiful, beautiful presentation. What I love about this house is the combination of a superb first-class A1 location just up Mount Sion, beautiful period property, but private garden and private parking. So in the village area of Tunbridge Wells, that doesn't come easily. So listing at a guide of 925,000. Do get in touch if you'd like more details on that. And Local and Live this weekend kicks off in the Calverley Park. Now moving into many years it's been going. It starts on Friday evening, just after 9 o'clock. They've got a great headline of acts throughout the weekend, including on Bank Holiday. There'll be things to do for kids, a real family event, and it's free. Go along, enjoy the music, but spend some money at those stalls as well. And let's support this great event that Tunbridge Wells has become so well known for. I hope you have a great week. Enjoy that long bank holiday, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.